It's Transformers96 here with another video review. This time we have the Hot Toys Avengers AOU Ultron Prime figure. So very excited to finally get this figure. It's been on pre-order for quite a while, and yeah, happy to have it in hand. So the box, very similar to all the other Avengers AOU Ultron boxes. Same design, it's even the same shape. The only difference about it is that it is taller. This figure is much bigger than your average Hot Toys figure. However, the box is not any wider. It's merely just taller, because this is quite a tall yet skinny figure. So very cool to have it. Box, not super impressive. You know, it's fine. You know, it's a fine box for Hot Toys. I don't really care too much about the boxes though. But let's get into it. Starting off with what he comes with, which is his base. Alright, so Ultron does come with a pretty unique base. It's in the same sort of design as like the Iron Legion bases, where you have a cylinder. I believe it's the same shape and everything. Of course, though, the top is completely different. It has a Avengers logo, but kind of in that mechanical Ultron type of design. So, you know, it does tie in both to the Avengers and Ultron, which I think is really cool. It's a nice design. I like the way it's painted. It's got a nice silver on it with some kind of bluish sprayed into it. Gives it a really neat kind of metalish look to it. And very nice. The coolest function about it is with 3 AAA batteries. It does have a light up feature, and as you can see, some of the piping in the line work there does light up, which is really cool. And this is with the full lights on it. You can still see the lights even with spotlights on this, which is really neat. But if we turn those off, as you can see, it's extremely bright. It's actually a little bit hard to look directly at because it's so bright and it's like so many LEDs, but it's very cool, and it's bright enough that it does cast a kind of reddish glow on his legs, as well as just on the things behind him. So if you have him standing on this base and like have it pushed up against the wall, as you can see, it creates like this red effect on the wall too, which is really cool. So I absolutely love the base, the fact that it lights up and everything. So how he actually goes on is with one of the flight poles. It's the same basic flight pole that you're going to get with any of the flight bases. It is the longer one and not the shorter one, like you do get sometimes. The clip is exactly the same, even though he has a very strange waist. I would have much preferred them to actually like redesign a clip that's specifically meant for Ultron, so that it holds him better. Because with this one, you kind of have to like put it over 2 of his, I'm going to call it the ribs of his, I guess, and it just feels like it's not super stable, or, you know, you're kind of worried about messing up those things. Even though they do feel secure, it does feel like you are putting a lot of pressure on him. So I would have definitely liked a newly designed clip that was specifically meant for Ultron. Unfortunately, we didn't get that. It still works though, but the base itself is very cool, and I love the light up function. Without the light up function, this would not be half as good as it is in person, which is great. Alright, so now on to the figure. Unfortunately, this item does not come with very many accessories at all. Like you saw, only the base, no extra hands or anything else. That is a disappointment, and I will be discussing it more at the end of what I would have liked to see him come with, because obviously without the bases, or without many accessories, it could be a bland figure. However, I feel like the figure is so good that it actually isn't. But starting off with this head sculpt, this is the lowest part of the figure, I think, in my opinion. The prototype images look pretty cool. I feel like there's way too many lines in his face. If you actually take specific images from the movie in his Ultron Prime mode, he doesn't have this many lines, or I believe that he has like a decent amount of line work, but it's all extremely thin. Now maybe it was very hard to get it thinner than this, but the lines are quite deep. They're very noticeable. His face looks incredibly busy, which is really annoying. As well as without the lights on, you can't see his eyes. Like, he has sculpted eyes in there, but they're like so inset into the eye socket that you actually can't even see it. So it just looks like he has 2 just black holes for eyes, which really is disappointing. And as you can see, I mean, I have some lights on this guy. If you raise the lights up a bit, you can kind of see the eyes in there. So if you don't have lights like directly at this guy, like from the top going into his eyes, you are not going to see any sort of eye design in there, which is really disappointing, because just on your collection and just on your shelf, he looks like he just doesn't have any eyes, which is annoying. But the face, like the sculpture of the face, I do like it. I think the line work is, or the structure of the face is really nice. But again, the line work is way too busy and not even movie accurate. As well as the lines at the top of his head, which actually have lights. They're kind of deep so that you can see the lights. However, they're way too big again, so that's another issue with that. The little, I guess, like antennas that he has on the side of his head, they look very nice, very even. I have seen reviews where they don't look too even. Mine seem to come out pretty nice. I really don't have issues with it, which is good. So maybe that's just my copy, or possibly it is the majority of people have a good antenna sculpture. The rest of the body is very nice. I think that they did sculpt it really well. It does kind of give you the appearance of Ultron in his Ultron Prime mode. I do have like the caps where the battery socks, like there should be a cap there. I have them off just for easy access to get to the switches. It does look quite good. Going down, as you can see, proportions are excellent. I think that it's overall a very nice look as far as how they sculpted it. Paintwork is very nice. It's a really nice bright silver. The only, well, it's not necessarily an issue, but the only thing is there's just not much going on because it's really just all one color. You have some slight variations in the silver and a bit of gray at the thigh area, but other than that, it's just really just one color with a few red highlights, and the red highlights are extremely minimized. The feet are quite interesting. They're small, and he's very skinny yet bulky up top figure. He's got big shoulders and everything, so you'd think that he'd be hard to balance and stand. However, even without a base, he's really easy to stand, which I'm very happy about. Just his even though his feet are really arched, so you're really only going to get him to stand on the back heel, and on this little area the toes won't even like touch the ground usually. So it is interesting that he is so stable, yet just based on the appearance of the figure you wouldn't expect it. So I am quite happy about that, and you know, again, that's something I wasn't expecting, which is nice. Articulation on this guy is quite good as well, for the most part. This actually surprised me in how good the articulation is, for the most part, like I said. So let's get into it. First of all, starting off with the worst articulation, the neck. The neck has extremely limited articulation. Gonna get basically just a little swivel. Really, that's the extent of the up and down, and that's about it, which is a huge bummer. James Spader, who voices and does the motion capture for Ultron, when he talks, like even just like him as a person, and especially with all the characters that he does, when he talks, he has his head tilted, and that kind of that extends itself to Ultron. Many times in the movie, the majority of the time that Ultron says anything, he has his head tilted to one side, and that's just kind of a signature of James Spader, which has become a signature of Ultron, considering he does the motion capture for him. So that was something that I'd really love to see this figure be able to do, and it's such a simple thing. Like tilting his head to one side, that should be something extremely simple, and there should be no problem with it. Unfortunately, this figure's head articulation is so limited, he can't even tilt like at all, which is my biggest complaint about this figure. Something that I would have absolutely left him like that on my shelf with the head tilted and everything, but he is not physically capable of doing so, which is huge disappointment, and a really easy fix had Hot Toys thought of it. The reason, or the majority of the reason why his head is so limited articulation, is he has these two like little spine pieces that are connected to the back of the head that go down. They're rubberish, so when you do move his head, they do still connect, and as you can see them move, and even his collarbones here, they do move as well, which is some impressive engineering for sure. However, it's just unnecessary. I would have liked them just to not be connected, or if you want, do them kind of like Ant-Man's little wires, where you can unplug them and move the head, and then if you want, you can plug them back in. That would have been a great idea, just so that you can have him have full range. So that is super disappointing. Shoulders are virtually uninhibited, which is really nice. It can go up quite far. As you can see, the shoulder goes way up on the on his collarbone there. They can completely tilt up or back as far as you want, and when you tilt it forward, as you can see, the shoulder pad kind of swings under this little panel, and this panel's on both sides. It does have a hinge and it's on a spring, so when you don't have it there, it'll just spring right back into place. Really nice engineering again, and it allows you to maintain all of the articulation in the shoulder. Really great range in the shoulder. You just have to make sure that the shoulder pads, when you swivel them back, go on top of the collarbone and not underneath. Especially on this side has a tendency to go underneath, just on my copy. He's got swivel bicep that really isn't hindered much at all. It has an excellent range, which is quite nice. And then double hinge elbows. that is about as far as it hinges, which is quite good, I have to say. I don't necessarily need it. I've posed this guy a lot, and I've never been in a situation where I was trying to get it to go further, and it just wouldn't do it. So this is an excellent amount for me. And then we go down to the wrists, ball jointed wrists, which are really nice. They have full range and just a good range of movement. They're not inhibited. The torso is relatively hindered. There is no swivel, which is unfortunate. However, I've never been in a situation again where I felt the need to swivel him. You know, the swivel might have been nice because he has a limited head articulation. Swivel might be able to compensate for that a bit. And if he also had a ball jointed torso where you could tilt the torso, that might be able to help for the tilt in the head as well. However, unfortunately, you can't do that. Really, he has a slight ab crunch. You've got about 3 clicks on a ratchet there, and that's about it. So it's a limited crunch, so not much that you can do with the torso. The thighs are excellent. Let me take them off the base for this one. The thighs work very much like an Iron Man. As you can see, here it is fully up into his leg. It does extend down, and this piece also will move up, allowing for an excellent kick. Very nice. I have to say I like that a lot. And then double jointed knees, which can move extremely well. You have some strong ratchets right here, and then some lighter ratchets in there. See, yeah, you can hear that one ratchet is much tighter. That's the same on both sides, so that is a trait that extends to all the Ultron figures, not just mine. And then finally down at the ankles, they are hinged. They can go up this far. Can you see? And then they can go down this far. Pretty decent range there, and they are on ball joints, so he does have an ankle pivot. However, it is extremely stiff, so it's kind of hard to get that ankle pivot to move, but you can do it. So overall, articulation is really nice, very much hindered in the neck and slightly hindered in the torso. However, everywhere else, he has excellent range. Not only does he have the right joints, but they have excellent range, which is fantastic and allows you to do a lot of fun posing. When I got this figure out of package, I spent 3 hours straight, I'm not even kidding, just posing this guy and taking pictures and doing all sorts of stuff. And, you know, it was just by the end of it, I was like, what time is it? You know, the time just flew. It was very fun, and even this morning, because I got this figure yesterday, and this morning I've done a bunch of posing with it already. So extremely fun figure, and one that I was not expecting to be fun. I thought that this would be a pretty limited articulation figure, especially I was not expecting anywhere close to what he has thigh articulation wise. Alright, so let's go over the features of the suit. Alright, before we get into the lights, I did forget to mention 2 points of articulation. First of all, the fingers are fully articulated, you know, your basic kind of Iron Man style articulation with a hinge at the lower knuckle, at the middle knuckle, and then at the upper knuckle. And then on the thumb, you just have a ball joint at the bottom and then a hinge at the middle knuckle. So overall, great articulation for the fingers. And then he does have one unique point of articulation, which I think is quite cool. I can get a level so you can see. Alright, his mouth does open, which is quite neat. You can kind of see like a teeth sort of design in there, which is pretty cool. You know, I don't know how menacing it looks. It looks either like he's screaming like in anger or in pain. It doesn't look like he's talking though. So if you do want him just kind of like in a talking style, you can kind of do it halfway where you can still see his teeth a bit. This kind of looks like he's either got his mouth open slightly or, you know, he's just finishing a sentence or something. That's kind of the impression I get at least. So, but without the head tilting, like I've said, the open mouth, you can't really get a good talking pose out of them. But overall, you know, they could have easily not opened or not given you articulation in the jaw, but they did, so that's quite nice. And then that's definitely something I do appreciate. So let's go over the lights now. Alright, so let's go over the light up function. So he has 4 places where he does light up. Lights up in his head, which extends to the eyes and even the mouth. You can have lights in the biceps, and then a light in the torso. You can kind of see some of the translucent red plastic throughout him. You know, there's a bit in the arm right there. From certain angles, certainly if you're looking from below, you can see it in his torso there. And then on the face, even with the little cap on, you can see some of the lines are translucent red. Alright, so let's turn them all on and see how he looks with the lights on. Alright, here he is with the lights on. Not very noticeable with my other lights on, but when I turn them off, you can see he has quite a nice array of lights there. Very cool. You get the torsos aren't super helpful. I mean, I'm sorry, the biceps aren't super helpful. You get a strong light up here, and as you go down, you get a bit of a light in the lower arm. However, the majority of that is just from the light that's emanating out of his torso, which is going onto his arm. You can see that in his torso, he's fully lit up, which is really cool, especially when you go to some angles, and you can see it like coming through the cracks in his collarbone. Super neat. I absolutely love that. The head, I'm not loving the lights in the head. The red lines up top, they're a bit too thick, so it kind of looks weird, like he's just has like these just one design on his head. It's very strange. And then his eyes are nice with the red for the white of the eyes basically, and then the pupils are actually just like a white, which does look kind of neat. I don't know how much I love it, I have to say. When you go to the mouth is kind of, it's red but with outlined in the white. I don't know if that's intentional or that is just because there's two lights in his head and so you're going to get two colors in the mouth. But overall, I think it does look quite cool. I definitely don't think it looks as good in the face as it does on his body. I think the body is much cooler, and even with the biceps off, I think that it does look really quite neat. Let's try this. Yeah, see with the biceps off, you still get a lot of red on the arms. So I feel like the bicep light isn't even necessary. It's something I'm not going to use much. Just the torso and the head are pretty perfect for the lights, I have to say. The only thing I don't like is the fact that the switches are under the caps. So if you want, you can't like cap the arm back once you put batteries in and then be able to switch it. You have to leave the caps off to be able to switch the lights on and off, which is annoying. And that's something that I wish Hasbro would, or sorry, Hot Toys would fix, because they do that on a lot of the figures and it does become quite a nuisance. Alright, I do want to point out that this is an extremely tall figure. He stands just about Hulk's height, slightly under, you know, the top of his head kind of comes up to Hulk's nose basically, but he's much taller than your average figure, towers over them completely, which is very cool. He is, even though he's so big, he's not super heavy. He does, you know, have a plastic feel to him basically, so he's slightly light, which I kind of prefer. You know, I'm definitely in the minority by saying that, but a lot of people love the die-cast in the Hot Toys. I like die-cast, but not on 1/6 scale figures. It's just they're too big, it makes them hard to move, and they're just too heavy, and they become clunky, and when you pick up their arm, you know, their arm feels too heavy, you're worried about stressing the shoulder joint, same thing with the hip joint, things like that. So I do not prefer die-cast figures, so I do much rather have these that have the same appearance as a die-cast figure, however, just that aren't as heavy. They're, you know, they're just easier to maneuver and stuff. And because of that, you can get them in really cool flight poses, as you can see, using a standard, you know, flight pole. You can get him in a hovering or flying stance, which is very neat, and I do like that a lot. So yeah, so he's very big but not super heavy, which means he's easier to pose and control basically. So overall, I really like this figure. When it was first put on pre-order, I mean, it looked really cool. It was way more expensive than I was thinking. However, it turned out to be much bigger than I was thinking as well. So I did pre-order it because I'm a huge Villains fan. Of course, I'm going to get it. I would have loved to see them actually include, or to see them actually do an Ultimate Ultron, or instead of that, just giving you this guy with the parts to put on him and make him the Ultimate Ultron. I think that would have been great. That's something that King Arts is doing, where they have an Ultron Prime figure, and they have an exclusive kind of, not exclusive, but an accessory pack that can turn him into the Ultimate Ultron if you buy that as well. I would have loved to see the Hot Toys do that, but have them just included, and obviously I would expect a higher price tag, but it would be worth it, because I do prefer the Ultimate Ultron's look. I think that it looks a lot cooler, so I would have definitely liked the option to display him as the Ultimate Ultron. I think that would have been extremely cool. So yeah, so overall, that's the accessories I think this guy is missing. He's very light on accessories, but that's because he really doesn't have any others in the movie other than those add-on pieces that they could have included, which would have been great. But there you go. Overall, really had a lot of fun with this figure, and I wasn't anticipating having this much fun. I thought he'd be a really cool looking figure and a character that was neat, but I didn't expect to just have hours and hours of fun posing him and taking pictures and things like that. So overall, turned out to be a really nice figure, better than I expected, and I would highly recommend it for anybody who's an Ultron fan. If you're not an Ultron fan, no reason to get it, obviously. However, if you are an Ultron fan, and it definitely has a high price tag, but I think that you will be pretty satisfied with that purchase, having made it. So yeah, so there you go. That's my video review of the Avengers Age of Ultron Hot Toys Ultron Prime figure. Thanks so much for watching, and let me know what you guys think of this figure.